Tanya.
Oh, it's so lovely of you to join us here today. I'm really so excited to be talking to you.
Thanks.
I was wondering if you'd just mind introducing yourself and just letting us know a little bit about your background.
Perfect. Yes. So I'm Amanda, and I started Pilates, just doing Pilates when I was about 12 years old because I was dancing, and my ballet teacher told me to try Pilates to help get my legs a little higher because I was struggling with that. And that obviously helped build my strength. So that did improve. And then I went on to study full-time ballet at the New Zealand School of Dance, and that's where I met Tanya. And I unfortunately got a stress fracture in my hip when I was dancing, and Tanya also helped me through the rehab with that. And then I went back home to continue probably for about a year through rehab, and got back into ballet, and just found that it was just a little bit too much for me and I needed a change. And so I decided to come back to New Zealand and do my training with Tanya. And I think I've been teaching for nearly coming up to 10 years, I think now. So
Yeah,
yeah.
something like that. It's been amazing. It's it's been quite a journey, hasn't it?
Yes, that definitely has. I feel like I've come full circle again.
So was there anything that made you hesitate about working with me, Amanda, when you decided to do the training? Did you look at other options?
I think the only hesitation was that I was back home in Australia, and that it was just a question of whether going to New Zealand and doing the training would translate and be recognised in Australia or anywhere that I went. I think that was my only hesitation, because I knew who you were as a person and a teacher, and you really guided me and supported me through my training. So that was never a hesitation for me. I think it was the other side of just the training, and the type of training that you were doing. Yeah.
And did that stop you from working anywhere in the world?
No, I worked in New Zealand, Australia, and London, and I never had any problems or struggles getting a job, and all of those. I worked with fantastic people and in great places. So yeah, never an issue.
Like, phew, that's good to know. So what would you say were the results that you got from working with me? How did that training translate into your life?
I think every time I teach, there is something that always reminds me of you, which is really, I don't know, it's lovely. So
Lovely.
every time I come up with something that's quite along the lines of imagery cues, I think that was a really big thing that I learnt from you, Tanya, was how to be creative with imagery. And at the start of my training, it was like, oh, I always come back to like the champagne bubbles and the turtle head coming out of its shell. I always use them, and it makes my clients laugh. But and I think the people that you can use those cues with. And I did have a period of time where I was teaching a lot of younger dancers, and it was a lot easier to use imagery cues with them and get creative, and play around with that. But that's one definitely big thing that I always use, and it always makes me laugh because I think about you every time I use them. um, but I think another thing was just learning that there's always a purpose to why you're teaching the exercise, and there's so much more. There's all these layers within the exercise. You're not just teaching a movement, just a basic movement. Well, the movement can be really basic. I think this is what is very amazing with your teaching, is that a lot of the movements that we learnt were very basic, but they aren't basic, because when you take all those layers away, exercises that set everything else up, and they kind of make a massive difference in people's training, or in the client's way of life, and how they're moving in their daily lives. It's a massive change. So yeah, there's I could talk forever about all the things. And I use all of these things in my teaching every day. So you're there with me.
Oh, that's so wonderful, Amanda. And to have kept that passion, for as long as you have, for the 10 years, and to still feel inspired by that makes me very emotional, actually. Yeah, and a lot of gratitude. So thank you. That is amazing. I really appreciate your honesty and being so candid about it. And I'm glad I can still be sitting on your shoulder, Amanda. It makes me very
No, well, thank you, because you're the person that made me into the teacher I am today. So it makes me very grateful as well.